How could I bring this life we live on a woman?
Tony Soprano lives in a 6-bedroom mansion in North Caldwell. Johnny Sack builds a fortress behind iron gates. Carmine Lubertazzi has the kind of estate that has its own wing. Christopher Moltisanti, a made guy for about 5 minutes, buys a McMansion the second he gets the bump. And then there's Junior. Corrado Jr. Soprano, acting boss of the DeMeo crime family, a man with decades in the life, a man who technically outranks every one of them for a stretch of the show, lives in a small, dated, middle-class house that looks like it hasn't been touched since 1968. It's not a mistake, it's not a budget decision, it's one of the most deliberate character choices in the entire series. And once you see why, you'll never watch Junior the same way again. Let's establish what we're actually looking at.
Belleville.
Junior's house is a modest 2-story in Belleville. 4 bedrooms, a finished basement, small yard. The interior is a time capsule. Wood paneling, floral wallpaper, a kitchen that hasn't been renovated in decades. The furniture looks inherited. The art on the walls looks like it came with the frames. Now compare that to the world around him. This is prestige-era mob television.
Most of the conversation was about Johnny Sack moving to Jersey and all that there.
Yeah, Johnny Sack told Gabriella she needed a bigger house.
Every other made guy on this show is flexing. Big lawns, pool houses, wine cellars. Tony's home is practically a character. Johnny Sack's place is a monument to ego. So the question hangs there from episode 1. If Junior is a capo who becomes acting boss of one of the most powerful crime families in the Northeast, why does he live like a retired postal worker?
You don't belittle a man like Junior Soprano. He's old school.
The quick answer people reach for is, he's just old school. And that's true. But it's the beginning of the answer, not the end. Because the real explanation is a layered one. Part cultural survival strategy, part Bachelor logic, and part something the set designer himself eventually confirmed. Let's break it down. To understand Junior's house, you have to understand the generation that built him. Junior came up in an era of organized crime where visibility was the enemy.
Lord, you fuck with Junior Soprano.
Take it easy. We're not making a Western here.
In the real-world American mafia, there was a generational philosophy, not written anywhere, but enforced socially, that a boss does not flaunt.
Look at the old guy, making him do the perp walk. A legitimate businessman.
A boss blends. A boss is a legitimate businessman who happens to own a vending company. A boss does not have a statue fountain in his foyer. Look at Carlo Gambino, one of the most powerful mob bosses in American history. He deliberately lived in a modest house in Brooklyn, nondescript, forgettable. He understood something every old-timer understood. A big house is a spotlight, and a spotlight attracts 3 things you do not want: cops, rivals, journalists. Now compare that to Paul Castellano. Castellano built a neoclassical mansion on Staten Island that the rank and file called the White House. The working class guys in his own family resented him for it. When John Gotti orchestrated his murder outside Sparks Steakhouse in 1985, that resentment was part of the fuel. The mansion made Castellano feel untouchable. Instead, it made him a target inside his own organization. And here's where it gets interesting. Gotti himself, the man who inherited the throne, lived in a modest Howard Beach house. He wore the tailored suits in public, but he kept his residence low-key. He understood the lesson, even while he broke other ones. This is the code Junior was raised in. Don't draw attention. Don't give the feds a reason to wonder how you paid for it. Don't make the guys underneath you hate you before they even shake your hand. Tony's generation, the McMansion generation, inherited the money, but not the paranoia. They grew up comfortable. They grew up American. They wanted the house, the pool, the boat, the visible proof.
You wearing a suit to the dinner, eh?
Junior grew up in a different world. A world where his parents were immigrants counting change.
Now I missed the early bird special.
Took a half chicken home the other night.
A world where the Depression taught people that comfort is temporary and attention is dangerous. That philosophy doesn't leave you just because you have cash. The quote that captures it best comes from a real gangster, not a fictional one. The guys that last in this business are the guys who fly straight, low-key, quiet. But the guys who want it all, chicas, champagne, flash, they don't last. Junior wanted to last. Here's the second layer, and it's simpler than the first, but it matters just as much. Junior never married. Junior never had kids.
Ooh, the other side of you.
Junior had girlfriends, most memorably the unfortunate Bobby Sanfilippo, whom he destroyed with a single sentence at a dinner party, but he never built a family unit. Most people upgrade their houses because they have to, because a second kid needs a bedroom, because the in-laws are coming for Christmas, because your wife wants a real dining room. The house scales up to fit the life.
right?
Yeah. Don't buy him anything big. We overindulge him.
Junior's life never scaled up. It stayed exactly the size it was in 1965. Think about what a house actually does for a bachelor wise guy in that era. It's a place to sleep. That's it.
But down at the club, the word is your Uncle Junior.
His real life happens at the Bada Bing, at the pork store, at the social club, in the car, at the restaurant. Home is where he shows up at 2 in the morning to watch TV and fall asleep in his chair. Why would you renovate a kitchen you barely cook in? Why would you buy a 4-car garage for one Cadillac? Why would you put a media room in a house where no guests come to visit? You wouldn't. It would be absurd. And there's something else worth noticing.
Look at you.
Told AJ to fix this leak while I was still living at my mother's.
When Tony and Carmela separate later in the series, Tony doesn't move into some palatial bachelor pad. He moves into his mother Livia's old house, which, notice this, looks a lot like Junior's. Small, dated, dark, almost identical in spirit. The show is telling you something.
With my family now, separation.
When the family unit vanishes, the mansion stops making sense. The mansion was never for Tony. It was for Carmela, for the kids, for the image of a functional suburban life.
Kids are growing up. Gonna be out of the house soon.
Take that away, and what's left? A single guy who just needs a place to sleep.
Bobby Sanford, Junior hasn't kept time whatever in years.
Junior never had the mansion because Junior never had the family. He skipped the whole equation. Now here's where the analysis gets really interesting. Because the set designer of The Sopranos has publicly confirmed something fans suspected for years. Junior's house wasn't just meant to be modest. It was meant to look frozen in time, specifically frozen in 1965. The year was chosen deliberately. 1965 was Junior's heyday, the moment in his life when he was most powerful, most respected, most alive. The set designer said the house was built to look like nothing in it had been updated since that year. Everything old, nothing modern. Think about what that means as storytelling. The house is a physical manifestation of Junior's psychology. He is a man living inside his own peak. Everything around him, the world, the culture, the family business, his own body, is moving forward, and he is refusing to move with it. The wallpaper is 1965. The kitchen is 1965. The world view is 1965. And by the late seasons, when his mind begins to go,
You don't know who I am, do you?
Junior was acting a little peculiar when I got here today.
when dementia starts eating the edges of his memory, even his reality starts reverting to 1965. He stops recognizing Tony. He stops recognizing the present. The house was always the warning sign. Now consider what this does to his character arc.
Your uncle resents that you're the boss.
Junior is a man who refuses to evolve in a business that demands evolution. He resents his nephew Tony for rising above him. He resents his brother, Johnny Boy in memory. He resents little Carmine. He resents everyone who moved forward while he stayed put. The house tells you all of this without a single line of dialogue. A small, rigid, outdated, isolated structure, increasingly out of step with the world moving on around it. That is not set design. That is character design, built out of wood and drywall. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every time the show cuts to Junior's house, it's reminding you, this man's time has passed. He just doesn't know it yet. Here's the line worth remembering. Junior's house isn't small because he couldn't afford better. Junior's house is small because he never let his life get any bigger. So why did Junior live in a small, plain house? Stack the answers on top of each other. 1. He belonged to a generation that understood visibility is a death sentence. A generation that watched Castellano get shot for building a palace.
I hesitated. How could I bring this life we live on a woman?
2. He was a bachelor. No wife, no kids, no reason. Home was a place to sleep between earning trips. 3. His money wasn't clean enough for a mansion to be explainable, and by the end, most of it was buried in the backyard, in a location he could no longer remember. 4. The house was a deliberate creative choice by the writers and set designers, built to mirror the man living inside it. A character frozen at his peak, refusing to update, isolated from a world that had moved on. All of those answers are true. All of them matter. But the deepest one is the last one. Junior's house isn't a house. It's a portrait. And the portrait is of a man who mistook staying still for staying strong. The Sopranos is a show about men who build monuments to themselves and then die inside them. Tony's house, Johnny Sack's estate, Phil Leotardo's compound. Every one of those mansions becomes a trap. Junior built something smaller. He built a shell that matched the size of his actual life. And whatever you think of the man, the scheming, the resentment, the catastrophic decision in the bathrobe, you have to admit, he understood one thing the rest of them didn't. A big house doesn't make you a big man. A big house just makes you easier to find. Now I want to hear from you. What's another detail in The Sopranos? A piece of wardrobe, a set choice, a single prop that tells you everything about a character the moment you know what to look for. Drop it in the comments. The best one becomes the next video on this channel. And if you want more deep cut Sopranos analysis like this, hit subscribe. We're not done with this family yet.